Hi everyone, it's great to be back with you again, and Steve and I hope that you all had a wonderful new year and that you've started your 2022 strong and committed to your goals. And if you need some guidance or about goal setting, we uploaded a video to YouTube just last week that you might find useful, so perhaps go and check it out. So here we are again, Mindset Junkies with episode 3. I'm Allie.
And I'm Stephen. And basically this week, what we're aiming to do is extend what we went through last time, which was talking about the goals and extending it out into the values piece. So exploring things around what core values are and things like that. So, Allie, do you want to describe a little bit around what your take on core values are?
Well, this is something that I actually was asked when I joined the Royal Navy back in 1982, which as a 20-year-old at that point, I was like, what are core values? I have absolutely no idea. But when it was explained to me, it kind of really makes a lot of sense in terms of what core values are. And they're things that we find important to us, characteristics and behaviors that motivate us and they guide us to our decision-making process. And they become a fundamental basis of our credibility and authenticity. A really good way of judging what your values are is around, what do you feel is right? What do you feel is wrong? And actually understanding your purpose in life. And that's quite a big kind of like statement there about what values are. But essentially, it's something that you feel in your gut is very representative of who you are deep down inside, but also what you want to be known for. And it's almost like having that moral compass that helps you guide you through your life. And whenever any sort of situations come up, what is it that your core values are telling you about how to approach this situation? What are your core values telling you about how to think and how to behave in terms of this situation? So I find that when I look at my values, they are essentially my moral compass on how I navigate through situations that happen to me. And we talk a lot about mindset. Mindset has to go with it, but at the core of who I am, my values are still the same values today that I created for myself back in 1982.
And it's interesting, like it might sound like we're putting kind of a lot of pressure on there to say, your values are quite core to what it is you do and what you operate as a person. But I think more so, like from what you've said there, it's the discovery of them, isn't it? Because we already know what they are. We already operate by these values. It's just basically getting them down, understanding, reflecting on what they basically are, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, you could look at a big list of values and say, yep, I have all of those. And you probably do at any given time display some or all of them. But what we're suggesting is that you really should have, no more than about 5 that you feel are a really, really strong representation of, who you are deep down inside. And also, what do you want to be known for being, and your values have to be things that you not just say, that your actions actually back up your values as well. There's no point in saying that honesty and integrity is one of your core values if every 5 minutes there's a lie coming out of your mouth. So, it's actions and the values, they do have to go hand in hand with each other.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And one story I wanted to bring into this is basically within Salesforce. So what we see both internally, and it's also the public domain as well. And it goes back many years, like Tony Robbins. Many of you know me and Ali are big fans of Tony Robbins. He talks about Mark Benioff, the founder of Salesforce, and the work that he has done on the culture of the organization, basically. And one thing that we publicize and we talk about very, very often is a concept called a V2 MOM. And values is one of those V's. So the idea is it's vision, it's values, it's methods, it's obstacles, and it's measures. And what this does is helps to align everybody throughout the organization on basically the vision, on the values, and then understanding what the different methods, obstacles, and measures are that may be dependent on the specific work stream. And the reason the values is up there is just as you described, it's kind of creating that connection into something, it's creating that alignment. Because basically values are fundamental to any company culture. You know, if there's somebody who doesn't align to the values, they're essentially saying that they don't necessarily believe in what an element of that company is potentially doing. This is the same from an individual perspective. Like you mentioned relationships there, Allie, as well. And, you know, if you have completely different values to what your partner or potential partner does, then that relationship is potentially off to a bit of a rocky start. So I think it's really important to understand them, which is why we wanted to bring this as a topic kind of very early on this journey to you.
Yeah, I completely agree with you with that as well. And, you know, one of the things that, you know, we do as well is that we regularly sit down as a team and look at what our values are and actually find out where the shared values are. Because when we understand where we've got the shared values as well, it really brings that teamwork together, because we feel that we understand what our purpose is as a team. And, you know, it's the same way in relationships, it's the same way in your personal life, it's the same way in your corporate or your business life. You know, having those shared values really helps to improve, you know, your decision-making process, your productivity, your achievements, but also, you know, your ability to like love and be loved as well. We all want to, you know, be loved. We all want to be liked. But if we've got opposing values and principles, then, you know, that's going to be difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. And one thing we're saying for sure here is that with the values, you don't need to have 100% match to other people. You know, it's about that common ground and commonalities, isn't it? Like I know, for instance, that not all of my values are the exact same as what my wife's are, and that's perfectly okay. You know, as long as there's some common ground there, then we're kind of off to a good start. And as long as there's no conflict either between them.
Yeah.
You know, that's really the key thing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think there's an aspect of positive values, but also negative values as well. You know, positive is, I guess, the glass is always half full kind of way of looking at life. But then you've got the negative side as well, where, you know, you're looking at things from a perspective of it being situational, because, you know, something's happened. You know, you've had a bad relationship in the past and you've been left with some scars from that, and therefore going into any future relationships, you're basing your future relationship on what happened in the past. Oh, that's going to happen again, or oh, I can't trust that person because, you know, the last relationship I was in, you know, that person cheated on me, whatever. As long as you stay within your core values and you remain that, you know, that with that integrity of your own, you cannot really change the values of someone else. You know, they have to live their life by their own principles and the understanding of what's right and what's wrong. But as long as you stay true to your own values, you'll always feel that you're not trying to live and jump to somebody else's tune. You're very much staying within your own, like I said, that moral compass. So, you know, a lot of the negative values that people think that they have are very sort of situational based, and they should be fairly temporary. And there are ways and means to change your mindset to get you back to, you know, what your positive values are again.
Yeah, definitely agree. And we've touched on it with things like connection, there's performance, there's all these other things that kind of can stem from ensuring that you have alignment into values. Like just think of the ethos of the team, right? And creating of things like psychological safety. If you've got everybody fighting and aligned towards those same values, then, you know, the performance is naturally going to improve.
Absolutely. We talked last week a lot about the why, but the why, the how, and the what, and the values, they all go together. They're all part of these ingredients that make this spectacular cake. And you can't have, you can't have the right kind of output without having, you know, a team that are all understanding what their purpose is, you know, why they're doing it, how they're going to do it, and the values that they want to create. And when you think about actually finding out what your own core values are, and many of us, I don't think, really know what our core values are. We've not gone through that particular exercise. But once you do, you feel very wedded to, that is the person that I am. That is what I want to be known for being, because this isn't something that I have to act out. It's something that feels very authentic to me. It's very much part of my DNA kind of thing. So it's really important that you find the right values. And, we talked before we started the recording about, power and strength could actually be one and the same thing, depending on how you interpret it. It's just whichever one you feel more wedded to, more aligned with, that isn't just about my relationship or my corporate life or, my job or, who I am. It's something that you feel represents you in any situation that you might find yourself in.
I definitely do agree. And one thing we spoke about was, so we're giving you the importance of the values here and in what context it can be applied in. And so now let's talk a little bit about the how, right? In terms of how you can begin to define them. So this serves two purposes, right? So the first is, as you just mentioned there, Allie, it's basically helping people who have potentially not done this exercise before. But then also, it's great to go through and just do a refresher. And it's interesting to see if there has been a potential change. In all my experience of doing this, I remember we spoke a couple of weeks ago about this topic and said, I don't think mine changed last time out, but I wanted to be sure. So I've actually gone back to one that I did a few weeks ago, and lo and behold, they didn't really change. So, you may want to just do that just to get the finger on the pulse and just to kind of reaffirm those values to you. So, yeah, let's just go through a bit of the how. So I know we've got two different approaches here, which we said we're basically going to put notes in the description, in the session notes for this recording. But you just want to give a brief overview of yours, and then I'll give an overview of the other one as well.
Yeah, it's quite a simple exercise as it should be, but it does require you really putting quite a lot of thought to it and looking at the words in front of you and getting a feel for which one you feel relates to you an awful lot more. So essentially what we'll have is we will have a number of values. I think there's something about 36 or something like that are deemed to be, personal core values. It's just a word. And essentially what you'll do is you will look at those words and you will then have like three options or three piles. And as soon as you see that word and you really look at it, think about it, absorb it into your psyche, put it into one of the three piles. So pile number one is, yes, this is my core value. This is something that I feel very, very strongly aligned with. Pile two is, it could be a core value, and I'm feeling something, but maybe not as much as some of the other words. So it's going to go in pile two. And pile three is, no, I don't feel that that's something that is really important to me. It doesn't demonstrate to me what my purpose is. And by the end of that exercise, which will probably take you a good maybe 20 to 30 minutes, you will probably find that you've got quite a lot in pile one, a few in pile two, and very few in pile three. So when you look at pile two and three, discard them, because there's something there that is just not triggered with you. So don't go back to pile two and pile three. Go back to pile one again and actually see if you've got any words that perhaps mean the same thing. So we talked about power and strength, which are two of the words there. They're kind of the same thing. So which one do you feel a little bit more wedded to? Which one speaks to you an awful lot more? And if you pick one, then discard the other one. And if you go through that exercise, you'll probably then find that you'll whittle down that pile one an awful lot more. And you might get down to maybe about, 10, maybe 12 core values that are left. That's when you really, really need to look at that pile of numbers. And you might want to mix them up so they're not still in the same order any longer, so that you're looking at them in a slightly different way. And what you really want to try and do is you want to try and get down to a maximum of about 5. And these are ones that you feel that you can demonstrate authentically. It comes easily to you in terms of how you receive and give of this value. So I'm going to tell you what my 5 values are, and they haven't essentially changed very much over the last X amount of years. But empathy, courage, honesty slash integrity are kind of like grouped together, respect and trust, because these are the things that I give, but they're also the things that I want back from people. And that feels to me like, it almost feels like a currency in terms of, that reciprocation that I want to have in terms of any situations that I get into in my life. And it is something that I sort of do every 2 or 3 years, or even when I have a big situation or a big challenge that's happened in my life that I've come through, I will then go back and reevaluate my values again to see where any of those values helped me or played out in terms of overcoming that challenge. So it's something that I like to go back every couple of years, or on a challenge-based situation. And like I said, they generally haven't changed since I did this exercise back in 1982. So it reinforces to me even more that these are, the values that I feel that run through me, cut me in half and that'll say those five stroke six words, through my core. So that's how I did my exercise, and I can certainly provide the details or the little sheets to help people, use that exercise if they want to. But I think you've got a slightly different approach, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a couple of options. And like with that one, there's a little cards that you can buy. You can go online, you can print them off. And I think there's also a website that I've come across before.
I've got a little box of cards here as well.
You can also do them just on a website as well, a similar thing. It's not the same. It's better to have the hands-on element with these things. And it's interesting, you've said a couple of times there, Allie, about the moral compass. Right. And, like you go back and refresh them, and essentially acting as this moral compass. If you go into a corporate office, oftentimes what they've got is their values somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. They've got them on their website, at least they've got them on the wall. And it's kind of as a demonstrator, when employees see them, it's like, yep, we align to that. And there's no reason why you can't do this yourself either, having them up there. So when you do face a challenging situation that it might be testing you in some way, you can at least have them within eyesight. And it can help to ground you into that, right? This is the right thing to do. This is my moral compass. I have aligned towards this value. It's just that reminder, that refresher. I think that is really important.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
So the other exercise, it basically follows the same principles, right? We just wanted to give you the options so you're not forced down into one specific route. And this was one that was the refresher done just a few weeks ago for me. And basically, it was just using a spreadsheet. There was basically 10 lines within this spreadsheet. And what my coach had advised me to do was, what I want you to do is think and write, or it was actually tell him at the time and he did the writing, what a value is that comes to mind for you. And there was meant to be very little to no thinking. It's like straight off the top of your head, clicking, and until you couldn't think of anything else. And there was aim for a 10. I actually got 7 in there to begin with. I think it was 8. Oh, 9 actually. Sorry, I'm just looking at my spreadsheet now. I can't count. And that was the first part. Then it was, what we need to do is then whittle these down to a smaller number, which the number that he'd actually chosen was 7 there. I do agree with Ali, like having 5, I think, is the important number. I actually went for 3 on a previous exercise, but you do tend to orient towards the top few anyway. They're the ones that are the very easiest to know, that's who I am. And the next part of that is then, just as you did with the cards, is then to go through and think, okay, what's my number 1? What's my number 2? What's my number 3? What's my number 4? And what I found when actually going through it, so I basically created the list of 1 to 7. He was then going through and understanding, well, does number 1, is that actually greater than what number 2 is? Yeah. Okay. So my number 1 was family. My number 2 was wellness. So for me, family was number 1. The next one, wellness number 2, connection number 3. It was then, okay, is connection more important to me, or is wellness? So then that might pose a question. It might be like, well, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. No, I'm asking this question, so it actually emphasizes the importance of connection. So maybe connection is actually my number 2 value. So I'm going to swap the positions of those 2 around. And then you basically go down that list to understand essentially what your tiered, what your ranking of your values are. So for transparency on this, so mine are, there's family, which is number 1. There's wellness, which is number 2. We've got connection, which is number 3, entertainment, number 4, development or learning, which is number 5, support, and then security, which is number 6 and number 7. But as I'd mentioned with those, it's like, as I went down that list, it was like the others just became meh. They're just there. You know, they're on the list because I was asked to complete 7 of them. Whereas, you know, in any other exercise, they'd have been dropped off. And I remember doing one similar to yours quite a number of years ago. And what I found, and we spoke about this last time, didn't we, where I essentially had a pyramid of values. So what it ended up being is we had these mass number on the bottom, which then I eliminated some and promoted some. Then I promoted more, and then I promoted more. And if I looked at that top 3, it was basically family, wellness, and connection. That was in that little trio, that little triangle, which are essentially what the core 3 values are. So I guess what we're saying here, there's a number of different ways that you can go about doing this. It's finding out what works for you. We'll put some notes in the description as to how you can go and do some of these things. And then it's just working it out to get that alignment in your life.
Absolutely agree. And I think what we'd sort of like to finish off by saying is that, you know, this values exercise very much leads into what our next episode is going to be about, which is all about brand, you know, your brand, your personal brand, the impact that you have in people, you know, the sorts of things that you want people to say at your funeral, you know, in terms of that legacy that you leave behind, or when you leave a room, what sorts of things that you want people to be saying about you or thinking about you. And your values play a big part in that. You know, if we all look at, people in the social world, or in films, or in entertainment, or in politics, or whatever, you know, there are people that we look up to because of the values that they have and the fact that they play those values out consistently, but also the impact and the brand that they create, whether that is, you know, Portia, or, you know, is Oprah Winfrey, or is it Tony Robbins, for example. You know, what is that impact and brand that they bring, and what is it they're going to be known for? So your values and your impact and brand all go hand in hand. So we do really want to help you with the impact and brand piece next episode on the back of the values exercise. So really good if you could get that values exercise done before the next episode, I guess.
Yes, definitely. And I think it'd be a really good exercise to go through this values, but then also, as you said there, coupling it in with beginning to think about what it is that you're essentially communicating to other people. And I'm not just talking about directly, but subconsciously as well, what some of those messages are.
Yeah, I would say as well that if you're really struggling with either of the 2 exercises that we've suggested and how you find your core values, is that maybe speak to close family and friends and say, what is it about me that, you know, you see that I consistently do? Or what is it that I'm consistently saying? You know, what would you be saying about me and on my epitaph, for example? And don't get morbid about it, but just, you know, what is it that I resonate with you? What am I known for? And get them to, you know, use specific words, because there's lots of ways of saying things. Oh, you're very kind, for example, but it could be that you're being kind, but you're doing it because you've got a lot of empathy, you know, and listen to the words that they actually use, because the words that they use are the ones that naturally come to their mind when they're talking about you. So that's another really good way in helping you to sort of like understand what your values are. And you've got lots of people that are saying kind of the same things, maybe using slightly different words, but they could be grouped together and, you know, to represent one word. Then, you know, that might help as well in terms of understanding what your core values are. But like we said, it's got to be something that you feel that you don't have to act out. It comes naturally to you in the way that you think, the way that you behave, the way that you know, take out and act out specific things. So, yeah.
Good insight there. Okay, so I think unless you've got anything else to add, Allie, I think that the values, I think we're done.
No, again, we hope that you've found this little session helpful. Again, please subscribe to our channel, like if you like to, share if you think it's worth sharing. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week when I'm going to be talking about impact and brand.
Yeah, definitely. And please do not hesitate to reach out if you do have any kind of questions or if you've got any struggles with this exercise as well. We're more than happy to help.
Absolutely. Thank you. Nice to see you all again.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.